last week I preached a sermon on, the first angel's message where it says, fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come. Worship him that made heaven and earth. Now, sometimes when I ask people who that God is that we are to fear, to worship and honor and give glory, you get different responses, right? And this is mainly because you've been raised a certain way, so your answer must fit the mold, the way your theology was shaped and so forth. But understanding now, Imad, who it is that is ultimately the judge, because it says the hour of his judgment has come. If we understand now who is ultimately the creator of the universe, right? And when I say ultimately, I'm talking about the source. If we understand who it is that we ought to fear and so forth, if you take what we have said thus far, then you can't come up with any other answer but to say that it is God the Father who the first angel is speaking of. And all those things, creation, yes, God is the creator, but he did it by Jesus. He is the judge, but he judged through Jesus. And he's the one ultimately to whom our worship is directed. How? Through Jesus. So it actually helps to understand the first angel's message, if you understand who it is, who the two divine beings are.
That is true. And if I can just add to what you said, build on it, to give an evidence to what you said, this verse, fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of judgment is come, and worship him that made the heaven and the earth and the sea and the fountains of water. And as you said, people get confused. Well, who is this him? Who is this God? Is it the Father, Son, Holy Spirit? Is it Jesus? Is it this? And well, you know what? If you just, again, look at the scriptures, notice in Acts chapter 4, when the disciples came together and they prayed for boldness, as this title says, after they've been beaten up. Notice what it says. And when they heard, now John was among them. John is the author of Revelation, the writer of Revelation. John was among them, right? When they were praying, notice what they said. When they heard that, they lifted up their voice to God with one accord and said, Lord, thou art God, which has made heaven and earth and sea and all that in the midst. Does that ring a bell? That's the same language in fear God, give glory to him that made the heaven and the earth and the sea, right? But notice what it goes on to say. Who by the mouth of thy servant David has said, why did the heathen rage and the people imagine vain things? The kings of the earth stood up and the rulers were gathered together against the Lord and against his Christ, for of a truth. They talking to God for a truth against your holy child, Jesus. So they praying to the God who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and whatnot, and they telling him, look, against your holy child. So hang on a second. Who then are they talking to? Who's the God that made the heaven and the earth and the sea? It is God the Father, because it is the Father that has a child whose name is Jesus.
Line upon line, precept upon precept.
Amen.
Praise the Lord. One day when we get to heaven, and this is the climax, we've been building up to Eden restored, the new Jerusalem. One day in heaven, who will we have a fellowship with? Who will we spend eternity with? Is there maybe also a scene in the Bible that depicts the worship that takes place in the Bible? To whom is that worship directed? Please
That's
help us as we conclude this beautiful study.
okay. Just before we look at it, allow me to just remind the listeners what we have seen so far. We saw that God created the world through his son. God saved the world through his son. God receives worship, or pointed back the worship of the world back to himself. He receives worship through the son. God will raise the dead, will resurrect the dead through his son. And God will judge the world through or by his son. Now, when we come to the scene in heaven, to what we will see in heaven, I haven't been there, so I can't tell you what I've seen, but John has, John the Revelator, and we can read about what he has seen. Now, there are many verses in Revelation that he says that he saw two beings. Notice, for example, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations, kindred, tongue, and people, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands, and cried with a loud voice, Salvation to our God, who sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb. Who are they worshiping? God and the Lamb. I mean, every Christian knows who is the Lamb of God is. It's Jesus Christ. It's His Son. So they're worshiping two beings, God and the Lamb. In chapter 10, verse 22 and 23. Uh, no, sorry, chapter 21, verse 22 and 23. It says, "And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon to shine in it, for the glory of God did lighten, and the Lamb is the light thereof. And the nations of them which are saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth bring glory and honor," and so forth. But uh, John saw two beings, God and the Lamb. Um, Now, I don't want us to miss also one other major scene in Revelation. We won't go through the whole thing, but that's Revelation chapter 4 and 5. In Revelation chapter 4, we have one being sitting on the throne. Um, Let me turn to my physical Bible. I know the exact verses where they are. Verses 2 and 3. A throne was set, and one sat on the throne, and he, right, the word one is added, but he is singular. He that sat was to look upon like jasper. So there is one being sitting on the throne, right? And there is a book, a scroll in the hand of that being that is sitting on the throne. And the 24 elders, they worship him and they cry, "Holy, holy, holy, Lord God Almighty," and so forth. It is somewhere there. Let me find in verse 8. It says, "And the four beasts had each of them six wings about him, and they're worshiping him. They saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, which was, which is, and which is to come." And when they give glory and thanks unto him that sat on the throne, and so forth. And the 24 elders fell down before him that sat on the throne, and worshipped him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their throne. And they said, "Thou art worthy, O Lord, to receive glory and honor and power, for thou hast created all things." So there is one sitting on the throne, they worshiping, giving glory and so forth to him. And then John sees in his right hand a book, and no one was able to open the book. And then it says, they were weeping because nobody could take the book and open it. But it says, "Behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, has prevailed to open the book and to loose the seven seals thereof." And it says, "And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the four beasts, and in the midst of the elders, stood a lamb as it had been slain, having seven horns," and so forth. "And he came and took the book," and it goes on. Not to make it a very long story, um, John sees two beings, one sitting on the throne, that is God the Father, and he sees the Lamb, or the Lion of the tribe of Judah, who comes and opens the book. And then later in the book is referred to God and the Lamb, God and the Lamb being worshipped. So in the book of Revelation, in heaven, there are only two beings that are being worshipped, referred to as God and the Lamb. There is the Father and his Son. We saw now on planet Earth, our fellowship is with the Father and the Son. We saw creation was done by the Father and the Son. Salvation, redemption, judgment, resurrection is by the Father and the Son. And in heaven, it is by the Father and the Son also. So, without making it a long story longer than it is, um, worship has always been given to two beings, the Father and the Son. Back in creation, now on planet Earth, and in heaven, there's only two beings, the Father and his Son.